to Sueños to Success. I'm your host, Dr. Victor Rios. Hey, today we're joined by a man whose life story embodies the power of resilience, reflection, and redemption. You'll see this individual has so many life experiences and a diverse array of interests. You'll be very interested in what he has to say. Manny Raya, he's a martial arts coach. He's a nonprofit director. He's a yoga teacher. He taught at the community college. He's a philosopher. He's a doctoral student at Pepperdine University, soon to be Dr. Manny. And he's got so many other things going on in life. But once he was caught in the cycles of street life and incarceration as a young man, Manny made an extraordinary transformation. Went from the juvenile justice system to higher education, from surviving a tough upbringing to mentoring the next generation in a very unique way. You'll find, I mean, he teaches young people how to surf in his nonprofit, Little Homies. And his story reminds us that education isn't just a path to success, it's a path to healing and purpose. And as you will hear, guiding so many others and helping others heal themselves, their families, and their communities. Manny, I want to start at the beginning, man. First of all, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having
being
me.
here, man. I've been following your work for a long time, and I meant to connect with you. And I know that your upbringing, right? You're trying to figure out life as a young man, and you end up getting yourself in trouble. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing and what led you to, start to go in the wrong direction as a teenager.
I wouldn't even say it was the wrong direction. It's just the direction that there was. I was born in Santa Barbara. My mom moved me to Mexico when I was one so that I would be in touch with my roots. And that meant living in abject poverty, that we didn't have anything in Mexico. She had 11 brothers and sisters. So I grew up with like a lot of brothers and sisters because my mom was 19 when she had me. And so the cool part about that was like my mom was the bigger sister, like the mean one. So she had my back. So like growing up, I was chilling. When I was 7, we came back to the United States.
When you say abject poverty, you're 1 to 7, so you probably remember age 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Like, what town are you in? What part of Mexico?
We're in
What
Mexicali and we're poor, very poor.
like where are you
Like
living?
we when we had a house made of adobe, and then an outhouse, no running water. Like I remember trucks would pass by with like big tubs of water, and we'd get those, and you'd have to boil it to drink it. Like it just, yeah, it was poor. And then we moved, and again, 11 brothers and sisters. We lived in a 1 bedroom house and sleeping in the living room, sleeping in the room, like 4 people on 1 bed, like poor. And we'd eat rice and beans for days on end. I just remember like not having anything. And then my uncle got a job at a chicken factory, and then we had chicken for days, but it was just like you eat the same thing over and over again, like it gets old. And so yeah, we just shared everything. We didn't have a shower. I remember like we saw a tin the other day, and I pointed it out to my mom. I was like, "Remember the shower?" She's like, "Oh yeah." Like, yeah, we did, but you're a kid. So it's just like I hadn't seen wealth. I hadn't envisioned anything else. So to me that was just normal.
Normal, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like I grew up like I'm poor. I grew up just playing with 11 brothers and sisters. Like I was chilling. It wasn't until I came to the United States that I saw that.
So you get here at age 7. You
Yeah.
get back over here,
Yeah.
and what's that experience like?
We'll get through this throughout like this our conversation today, but that's the first time I felt alien. That's the first time where like you don't know the language. I almost threw up on the way over here. My cousin picked me up in Mexicali, and I was just so nervous. I'd been told about the United States, about coming to this other world, and I threw up on the way over back to Santa Barbara because it's just like I was nervous as hell. And then,
Threw up from being nervous.
yeah,
Wow, just like you were going to a new environment.
I was leaving my family that is all I knew in Mexicali. Like I was to go somewhere else where like the people that picked me up, my mom wasn't with them. The people that picked me up, I didn't know. Like I have no idea where I'm going. I just know I'm gonna go meet my mom.
Just for the audience, to give you some context, if you don't know, right, audience members, I've been to Mexicali, visited actually my good friend's family who was also living in, man. They had like tin roof thing going. They didn't have windows, that kind of thing, and man, it's a city, a community of struggle. You know, amazing people, beautiful culture, great food. Man, the tacos out there are
Yeah.
incredible. But people struggle, man. There's poverty, and it's right on the border, and it's a borderlands. So there's a lot of everything going on there, and so maybe you were a little kid, kind of didn't really see it as what other people perceive it as, the negativity. But that was for you. That was home for you. That was community for you. That was family. And coming here, it wasn't like, oh wow, that little boy gets an opportunity to come to Santa Barbara, live in a better place. It was more like, man, I'm leaving my family and I don't know what this place is going to be all about.
Yeah. And I understand why my mom wanted to do it, like to come here and provide a better mode of life. She also didn't want me to grow up in the environment that I was in because though I was a kid, I didn't know that like my grandfather was very abusive across the board. So it was a completely toxic environment that I was in. But because I was a kid, I didn't know it. So like she saved us. And my great aunt, who I'll talk about later, like who I call my grandmother, gave us that opportunity, you know? Like I had no idea that, I'll say this later. It's like I am a victim of fortunate circumstance. I have people that have taken great steps that allow me to live the life that I live, you know? My great aunt giving my mom an opportunity to leave an abusive father. He'd beat his kids like crazy. Like I remember when I was a kid, I'd idolize him because like he'd get home from work and they'd take off his shoes and they'd take off his socks. Like he was living like a king. But like the way he beat those kids, the reason they treated him that way is because he was abusive. And like
They
my
were,
great aunt got us a get out of jail free card, you know?
yeah, they were scared. It was
Yeah.
ruled by fear.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you got to leave that environment while others had to
I didn't
stay.
know. I didn't know what my mom knew, you know? And so her, to this day, it breaks her because she left her sisters and some of her brothers there. But in her eyes, like she had to save me because I'm her son.
Yeah. Wow,
Like,
that's
yeah,
powerful. You said victims of a victim of
fortunate circumstance.
fortunate circumstances. Yeah, product of fortunate circumstance. That's incredible that to acknowledge that good fortune and opportunity, but also, as we'll find out, that hard work that you put in to get to where you're at today.
And I get that from my mom.
God, she's a hard worker.
Yeah.
So tell me more about moms. Like what are her characteristics?
Not because she's my mom. She's the best human I've ever met.
Mm.
She she's dope. Uh like I said, my mom was like the sister that was like the mean one. But that's because she stood up for everything. Like she's the one that would stand up to her dad and be like, "Nah, this ain't cool." She's the one that believed that there was a different way of life. She believed that that wasn't normal and that life could be different, which is why she left, you know, and came here. And from coming here, like she strong-headed, big will, always believed there could be better. And when we got here, she worked 2 jobs. Like my mom would be gone all day till like the sun came home and like I had family here as well, right? But like just to make enough money to provide what she could for us. Like that's all that she knew, you know? That's how we get ahead. And she always did that. She always like tried to make sure that I had a good clothing, that I was well fed, that I was taken care of. Like she just got a heart of gold. And I've seen that strength kind of dwindle down as like life has gone on because it's softened her because of everything she's been through. But yeah, like her determination, or her will, her character, like she's got a heart of gold. Like, and she has this faith in her religion and her practice, but she doesn't let that change her moral compass. Whether her religion believes one thing or not, she's going to treat people as people and respect people and such. Like She's autonomous. She's dope. She's dope.
That's amazing. And where's pops?
My dad, I haven't seen my dad since I was like 5.
Wow. So
Um,
he took off.
no, my mom dropped me off at his house once. I remember being a kid and she dropped me off at his house and she's like, "You're gonna stay at your dad for the weekend." And as soon as I got there and she dropped me off, he took off and left and he was gone for the weekend. And I was just there with his mom, you know? And I didn't know them very much. So to me, I was like, this is weird. And so when my mom picked me up, I was like, I never want to go there again. She's like, you don't have to. That's a wrap.
Okay. So real mom was dad and mom to you.
Yeah.
Wow.
To this day, I still give my mom a gift on Father's Day. Like that's
Wow.
it for me.
That's powerful. That's my story too, man. Mom having been both. So so you get to the U.S. You're from here, but then you're not from here. What's the school experience like for you?
That's where I tell you I feel like an alien. I didn't speak the language. So I was in ESL classes. And the only kids that I vied with were the kids that spoke Spanish like me. And so I automatically felt behind. Um, Clothing wise, just like kids got on new shoes, you know, I'm like getting hand me downs and like again, my mom's doing her best to support me in every way I can, but it's just like I'd never felt poor till I came here. I'd never felt othered till I came here. And so the school experience was I'm behind. I feel like another. It was just off. And so first grade ESL classes, second grade, I made it to a regular class. Third grade, the English started coming in. Fourth grade, okay, I'm kind of here. Fifth grade, I applied and tested for gate and I got in. But when I tested for gate, I did it just to see if I could because I felt behind, you know, and I was like, oh, I could do this. And then when I tested for gate, when I was testing, now you're in elementary school with all these kids for years, right? I know these kids, but they're not like my people, you know? And so I was just like, I don't want to do this. So I just went back to kicking it with the homies.
So you intellectually you made it, but socially you were like, these are not my people. I'm going
Yes.
back.
And I remember like fifth grade, sixth grade, when we start kind of trouble starts occurring around my friends that I kick it with. I hung out with like white kids for like 2 weeks just to see what it was like, you know? And it was just like, it's not my world. Like, it's funny because like recess is like everybody goes and plays, you know? But like the white kids would play dodgeball. So I was just playing dodgeball for them for a little bit, you know? And like the homies would be kicking it at the tree, like chilling like they always did. And it was just like, this isn't my world. This isn't my circle.
Now let me ask you a question. You know, we're both you know, um, highly educated. You're about to get a PhD. You know, I'm a sociologist. We study this stuff. So like, was it that you guys decided we're gonna be segregated even though we're at the same school, or was it that the school had set up systems where you know this group will go this way, this group will go this way, and we're gonna be okay with that?
That's historic. You know what I mean? Um, Originally from bracero programs, bringing Mexicans over here, giving people citizenship, training them to do a trade or this is the type of work you're going to do in, right? That's just there without me having to have that lived experience. You know, when I first went to Australia, housekeepers, gardeners, whatever, just Australians. If in the United States they say housekeeper or gardener, you think of a particular type of person. But that's because
Mexican.
that's the system was structurally set up that way, right? In school, I didn't think of it that way. And I don't know if we were victims of that. I remember my sixth grade teacher went the day of my graduation telling me, hey, Manny, you're never going to amount to anything. And like for me on graduation day, like again, that's setting me aside and putting me in the system and setting me down for like a path, you know? And it hit me. And I was like, I didn't know how to feel or register it. But in my head, I was like, I had some pride about me. I was like, forget this. Well, I'm gonna enjoy this day. This day's mine. I made it.
Yeah, that's
So
powerful because you know we think that kids choose to set themselves up for failure on their own, but we never examine the the schools and how they're set up to fail kids, groups of kids all at once, systematically starting and you're right, like 5th, 6th grade is when it
Not
begins.
even that, the school as a whole. Look at McKinley, look at Harding, look at Roosevelt, look at their test scores, look at the teaching that's going on there. Nothing against those teachers, but they're low. Look at the schools just a few miles down the road at Montecito Union, right? Different level of education. So it's like we could be in Santa Barbara in a very well privileged society, but there's different levels of education. There's different races of kids that are going to these schools. So it's
Yeah.
just like whether you don't notice that the system's there, the systems as a whole operate and serve a different type of function.
Yeah, this is a story of our entire country where you go to communities where, the working class and many times of color kids, the schools they go to don't get the resources, and then you go to the middle class and upper class, and many times, not always, but many times white communities, and then you see a lot of resources there concentrated. So how do you equalize that? That's a powerful, right, question to ask. But going back to your own journey, so you start to figure out that your social circle is this one, and this social circle is starting to do things. Earlier I said bad things. You said, well, it's just my
Yeah.
circumstances. So what starts to get you into trouble, and what kind of trouble were you getting in?
But let me delve deeper into that. If I'm on the streets and I get in a fight because I'm not in an after school program or my family doesn't have the money to put me in a camp, I'm going to juvenile hall. If Ricky over here is an AYSO and he gets in a fight, he gets put on timeout. They tell his parents he goes home, right? So right off the bat, this wealth disparity comes into play where we may have the same exact behaviors, but it leads to different consequences.
One's trouble, one is boys will be boys.
Yes.
Yes, and I've seen that. I've been AYSO in the soccer. I've been a soccer dad. I've been a baseball, coach. I've been a soccer referee, and I see those little kids getting into fights. And what do we do? The coaches come together with the parents, and we have a talking, and the kids get to talk to each other. But you're right. You're on the street getting in a fight. All of a sudden, maybe you get a ticket, but a lot of times people don't know that a ticket turns into probation, turns into entry into your first experience in the juvenile
Yeah.
system.
And so
So
for me, it was just, I was with my homies. These are the kids that I've grown up with now, right? And so as outsiders, we identified with each other. We're going through the same experience. Now, I would have never seen myself in a yoga circle, but I am because we share this community that we are embracing this experience of what's going on in our minds and in our bodies and sharing that. What are these kids but that? Right? We understand, we're living the same lived experience. We understand each other. So when it turns into us against the world because the world is against us, that's it. We're an us. We're just forming a community and trying to find autonomy within it.
the street family.
Yeah.
And you're making reference to your yoga community. I know you're a very coveted yoga
Thank
teacher in the community, and I'll get into that in a minute because I want to understand how you've created all these wonderful surrogate families in your life. Yoga being one of them, surfing another, Brazilian jiu jitsu another, boxing another, running the nonprofit Little Homies Turf to Surf community. You've created all these surrogate families in your life, and it's beautiful to see. So I want to unpack that a little bit. So now, though, you're in your teens and you got your street family, they're supporting you. You guys are going through stuff collectively together, and you go into the system. You start going into the juvenile justice
you.
system. And I know you talk about how um at some point you were forced to go and take a class at Santa Barbara City College, or what was it that kind of started to change you after getting caught up in that
So I
system?
started getting locked up. I got expelled from the school district. So I was in probation schools. Probation schools, instead of timeout or detention, you go straight to juvenile hall. And so that continued. My graduate, my graduation was going directly from juvenile hall to county jail for 90 days to terminate my probation. And I terminate probation.
And let me talk about that a little bit, because a lot of the guys that I wrote a book on some of the guys that were caught up in the street life. I wrote two books on it, but one group, for my second book, they kept telling me, "Hey, I'm turning 18. I'm just gonna turn myself in and go to county, and that way I could eliminate, my record, or what I owe, And I used to tell them, "Man, don't do it, don't do it," because they didn't feel like they had a choice. But the minute you get to county, now you're exposed to a whole different element.
Yeah.
So you had to do. How did you decide that that's something you needed to do?
I didn't decide. I was in juvenile hall. They sent me to county for 90 days to terminate my probation.
So it was already set up that
Yes.
way.
But in my head, that was normal. Like that's the path.
Yeah.
In my heart and soul, I was never, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get a job. Like jail is just the path that's next. That's life.
Talk about the school to prison pipeline. I mean, you were living it, right? You were from school, you're getting in trouble, you're getting kicked out, you go to juvie, and then county jail, man. Now we're starting to get serious, right? Pushing you
Again,
in there.
it seems serious, but it's just life. That's just the next step, right? You graduate from 4th grade to 5th grade. That is normal. Going from juvenile to county is normal. Like I've seen my older homies do it. I've seen my cousins do it. It's just, that's what's next. And so I got out of county. I think within 3 months, I was back on adult probation, back in county.
Mm.
And it was for something I didn't do it. Like I didn't do it. But because I had a juvenile criminal record that they could say, look, this is your past. There's 3 felony charges against you. We'll drop 2 if you keep 1. And if you decide not to take this deal, well, then you keep all 3 and we'll see how it fares in court. And these fools ain't going to go for me, I don't have anything positive in my life background at this point that's going to say, like, okay, maybe he didn't do it.
Yeah.
They're like, look at his background. Of course he did it.
Man, how does that feel to, like, you're finally changing, and now
I
that
hadn't really changed. I was still in the mud. I didn't do it this one time. I didn't do what they were accusing me of.
so there's one time you don't do it, you get caught.
And I got caught for trying to do the right thing. We were in the wrong neighborhood. I had a wooden stake, right? Just in case I get run up on. And my homie's with me. And we see some guys. We hit them up. What's up? They don't claim, they don't gangbang or anything. Cool. Let them go. A guy from across the street runs over. He's like, hey, what's going on? He's an off-duty sheriff. And then a cop passes by at the same time. My homie's like, let's take off running. I was like, we didn't do anything. They bust us for disturbing the peace. Took us to county jail. Sell me up. When I get out, they bring me back out and give me 3 more charges, which are the 3 felony charges. And they talked to gang task force, figured out who they brought in, and they were like, boom, let's just throw these at these fools and see what happens.
Wow. Yeah. That's you just said, hey, I hadn't changed. I know you've spoken about how you once wanted to be the best gangster out there. I think you mentioned that
Yeah.
before in an article. And that statement is powerful. It speaks to how deeply young people are searching for belonging and identity. And like you said, it's normal to graduate from juvie to county, then eventually prison, and live that life for the rest of your life. You're saying, hey, I grew up like I wanted to be the best gangster out there. Like what was going through your mind at that point?
That stems from me coming to the United States, like I said, and feeling alien. I felt alien that whole time. Just even in the gang stuff, like I'm my mama's boy. I have, my heart is my biggest part of me, And so I still feel bad for people. I still have all these emotions and all these other things going on. And I hated that. I hated feeling. And so rather than feel and deal with the stuff that's going on here, I just turned it to anger. And releasing that anger in the gang environment, that works, Like you're successful in this field when you're able to do that. So I was like, oh, I could do this all day. I have so much going on inside. I got it.
Yeah. So hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
You were hurting and you were putting out the hurt.
Yeah.
Got
And
it.
it's just like now these are my brothers. The kids that I'm growing up with, like these are my people. So it's just like it's us. Again, us versus everybody else.
Yeah, man, that's powerful. So what do you remember about the moment your perspective began to shift when you realized that the life you were living wasn't the one you were meant for?
I was on adult probation. Uh I had 3 years joint suspension. So that means if I get locked up again, I go away for 3 years. And I just said my drug and alcohol counselor had asked me to go to City College. I went. I was something that again, that was just to look good in front of the judge too. And I was getting money coming in easy, but I failed every semester that I was going. And so I got I got arrested and I went back no, that's a lie. I was at home. My mom and I have like I said, she's like my dog, like she's my best friend. And she comes into the living room and she goes, "Hey, I feel dizzy." I was like, "You need to go outside and feel dizzy." And pop, she fell.
Whoa.
And I ran to her and I tried to wake her up and her face was pale white. And I was like, "Mom, wake up, wake up." She wakes up. And I was like, I'm going to call an ambulance. She's like, "No." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Those cost a lot of money. You can't afford that." So even as she's like there, it's like she's still thinking like the world in which we live in. So I was like, "All right, I'm calling a taxi." I got a taxi. I took her to the hospital. Turns out she has cancer.
Oh.
I get arrested. And that's when I'm like, I can't do this. I can't. That's my mom. Like, my whole life I've said I love her and like she's the most important thing to me. Most of my life I put her through depression because of the gang stuff I was doing, you know? I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And so I went to jail and I told them I was going to school and they're like, "Yeah, you're not really doing it." I was like, "Give me this one shot. Give me this one shot." And they did. And I started being successful in school and I got a job because I needed help with the family just because I didn't know what my mom was going through, you know? And she made it. I took a philosophy class while I was going to school and working, and we read Plato's Allegory of the Cave. And in it, Plato talks about this civilization of people that live in a cave, and all they see are shadows that are in front of them, while there's people behind them creating those shadows. But even they're in the cave, right? It takes for you to be dragged out all of this, go blind until you're able to ultimately see reality. And to me, that spoke life. Like, what if this whole time I just been living in shadows? What if there's a world that exists out there that I don't know of? And like I said, I had a job. And at this job, this Hawaiian kid and this white kid would talk about surfing like it was the most magical thing ever. And I was like, I wanna try surfing. Like, that sounds dope. And that's when I found a completely different world. That's where it all just became reality to me. And I was just like, I can't go back to jail. Like this is dope.
Man, so it took you seeing your mom go through all of that to decide, man, I'm gonna get it together. I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna work. At school, you discover that you're living in a cave, just watching shadows, thinking that that's reality. But the true reality is outside of the cave, and you need to step outside of the cave. And then at work, one of your coworkers is like, "Hey, have you ever tried surfing?" He's like, "Nah, man, I don't surf." And
I don't
all
know how
of
to
us,
swim.
you didn't even know how to. And then you jump in the water one day.
Like in juvenile hall, we had a pool. I'd walk across it and pretend I was swimming with my hands. And so when I bought the surfboard, I bought the wetsuit and I went out and I realized like the wetsuit's buoyant. I was like, I don't even know how to swim. Like this floats me. And so yeah, easy work.
So you start surfing,
Yeah.
and once you catch that first wave, that's an addiction.
Oh,
That's
that
a
was the
high.
best. Yeah.
That's it. You're hooked.
To this day,
To
it's
the,
my favorite thing to do.
oh man. So now you're working. Now you're going to school. You're at City College,
Yeah.
going to school, and but family's still struggling financially, right?
We're not great. We're not struggling, you know. No, we're just making ends meet.
Yeah.
And that's all I've ever known. So it's not like, oh, like there's a different way, like, oh, checking and savings and like what? Money under the mattress. Like,
Yeah, but now you're contributing.
Yes.
whereas before you weren't. You
Yes.
were more of a burden on the financial,
Yeah.
right?
No.
Now
Oh, with
you're
restitution and everything. Yeah. You got someone's got to pay for that. Yeah.
yeah. So now, how does it feel to go from a burden, like I'm a burden to my mom, who I love the most, right? I know there's a lot of young people that listen to this podcast, or like their teachers and stuff, like, and they feel like they're a burden. They feel like, man, all the trouble I got myself into, like, I know that I'm a burden. I'm something negative to my family. I cost them money. I caused them stress. How did it feel to go from being that, feeling like you were a burden, even though you loved your mom, you still were that burden? All of a sudden, like, man, I'm working now. I'm self sufficient. I'm starting to go to school. What was that like?
I never looked at myself as a burden. I know that I put her through depression, but you have to understand, like, my relationship with my mom is crazy. Like, my friends look at like how we get along and like how much we love each other. Like, that's my dog. Like, when I was a kid and I was poor, we were poor as hell. It would be like, Mom, can we go to the store? She's like, oh, we don't have money, mijo. Like, just to look, it's all good. And like, I never made her feel bad because she couldn't buy me things. Like, we've always been like locked in. I always like, Mom, are you okay? Like, like that's why we're so tight. We grew up like homies. And so as soon as I started to get money, like, boom, we got money. Like, to this day, like Father's Day, Valentine's Day, like, I give my mom stuff. If I eat something that I think's bomb, I'm gonna hit my mom and take her with me because like she needs to experience it. Like, I know the sacrifices she went through. So like I got her right back. So I never felt like a burden. Now it's just like we came up together.
That's beautiful.
And
What's your mom's name?
Angelina,
Angelina?
yeah,
And how's she doing now?
she's
Health
chilling.
wise?
I drove her to work this morning.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. You're working. You're going to school. Is there mentoring in your life? Because the U.S. Department of Justice reports that 70% of young people that get caught up in the system end up returning, right?
Yeah.
But when there's mentoring involved, it lowers down to 43%, which is a big drop. So, was there any mentoring involved in your life?
EOPS at Santa Barbara City College, Marsha Wright, Dave Morley, rest in peace, Sylvia Cortez, like they took me in and they helped mold me. And every time like I'd fail a class or do something bad, Dave would bring me in his office and be like, it's all right. We just got to get a 2.0 to be able to make it to UCSB. And they all like took care of me. And then the academic mentorship I forced. Uh, when I read Plato's Allegory of the Cave, Plato talks about how to be able to make it from the shadows to out of the cave, you need mentorship because otherwise you can't see the world in which you live in. You need someone to drag you out, right? So I went to my professor, Joe White, and I was like, yo, in class, you had us read this Allegory of the Cave. This is my life. This is kind of where I'm at right now. I kind of want to take you on as a mentor. He was like, okay.
So you're the one who went to him.
Yeah.
So Joe White,
Yeah.
I gather he's a white guy.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the only reason I say it, because a lot of my students, right, college students coming from the hood, coming from Compton, South LA, East LA, Oakland, uh, you know, Fresno, Bakersfield, the West Side, the East Side, when they show up, they sometimes have a hard time feeling like they belong. And they come to me and they're like, hey, Dr. Rios, thanks for talking to me. I'm like, have you talked to your other professors? Like, no. I'm like, why not? I don't know how to talk to them, because it's like a different language, a different world.
Shows a different world.
So how did you did you have to gather courage or the words to come and talk to this guy? Or was he just like so amiable that you could talk to him?
Joe just spoke. He spoke from the heart. He was an academic, so obviously he had the background, but he was quirky. Like, he wore a rose on his lapel. Like, he was just a funny dude. Like, he'd make you laugh in class. And so to me, he was just like a big homie. And I told him that. I was like, yo, like, I want to take you on like a big homie, like, school me up on game. And I just told him the truth. Like, his class gave me a lot of confidence. I used to sit in class. Like I told you, once I picked up on the school game, I could do it. You know, I got before I got expelled from San Marcos, I went for a full semester and got all Fs. Like you get quarterly reports, right? One of my homies was like, "You're dumb, homie," and I was like, "No, I'm not." I was like, "I bet you I could get all A's." He said, "Bet." So we bet some weed. Next quarter, I did really well, got my weed, and then right after I got expelled from the district, right? So like I caught on to the academic stuff. And I'd do the reading, I'd do the work, I'd show up to class, but I was scared to raise my hand because of the way I looked, because I was bald, because I was wearing big white shirts, because I was wearing baggy clothes. I didn't want to reinforce stereotypes and be that, you know? And so I'd sit on my hands and someone would raise their hand and answer the question and be like, "Oh, I knew that one." And again, "Oh, I knew that one," right? And one day we're talking about the juvenile justice system, and they start talking about isolation practices in juvenile hall. And the teacher said something. I was like, "Nah, no, actually, you're wrong. I know this. I was there like last year." And so it's just like that built the confidence in me to be like, okay, start talking in class. And then with Joe, he had my back. Once I took his second class, he was like, "I want you to be a tutor for me." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I want you to tutor for me." And I was like, he's like, "Yeah." And so just boom, boom.
So this professor believed in you, even though you were from, the background you were from, even though you dressed the way you dress and the way you talk. He believed in you, and by that next semester, you were like, "Hey, I'm his tutor now. Like I'm elevated, and I'm feeling like I
I
could
didn't
go
even
in
see
that
it that way.
direction."
I just saw it that again, I could read it, I could speak it, and people have a hard time doing that. But I could just speak your language. I don't have to talk at this academic level in order to get you to understand the concepts, right? I could bring them to everyday life. So I just saw myself as talking to homies. And then the next semester, he nominated me for Student of the Year. And I was like, "What?" He's like, "You're living it." He's like, "This isn't theoretical." He's like, "You're doing it." And I was like, "Sick. Let's keep it going."
Shout out to Joe White out there
Oh, for
mentoring you,
sure.
man. All those teachers that mentor, man. According to the American Association of community colleges educate nearly half of all Latino undergraduates in the United States. Um, and you eventually became a community college teacher
Yeah.
too, right? I bet you wanted to like pay it forward and be like Joe, and be someone that carried on that kind of legacy of mentoring. What was that like to be teaching students at community college?
Teaching helped me give back in a way that was more than academic. When I transferred from City College to UCSB, at UCSB, I felt completely alien because I was still bald headed. I was still wearing the clothes. And at that time, 2004, nobody looked like me.
Yeah.
There was not another individual. At City College, there were a couple homies, but at UCSB, nobody looked like me. So when I was at UCSB, I had to go back to City College to do my homework and then go to school there. When I went to San Francisco State, I almost quit because I had to work a full-time job while I was going to school. And when I was going to class, again, I could catch up on the game. I could read, comprehend. But these kids would talk about these historical things that they learned in high school that I didn't know of. So I had to go home, research that as I did the reading, and it just became too much. And I went to my professor, who ended up becoming my mentor, Shelley Wilcox, and I told her exactly what I told you. And she's like, "Manny," she's like, "these kids know this because they learned it in high school and regurgitate it." She's like, "But they have a hard time comprehending what we're going through in class." She's like, "You pick it up and like shoot it, you know?" She's like, "I was actually going to nominate you to be a student teacher." And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Most of your life, you've probably been like felt that your voice doesn't count or you don't have a voice to go out there." She's like, "You do. I see it." And she hired me as a student teacher. And to me, that was scary, not because I felt like imposter syndrome, but because I was scared that I would get asked the question that I didn't know the answer to. And that fear led me to study more so that by the time I was able to teach at San Francisco State, I was on. And once I got comfortable in that setting, then it was on. So when I got hired at City College by Joe White, "I heard you graduated with your master's. Let's get you back in here." I wanted more. I knew where I was coming back to. I knew what was going on. So for the first month, I show up suited and booted, button up, tie. After that, I start showing up in a tank top, tattoo showing on a skateboard, just being myself. And my students would be like, I'm like, exactly. If I showed up like this on day one, would you believe I'm the academic that I am? Because on day one, even though I'm suited and booted, they test you. What about this? What about that? What about that? Shoot them down, gain their academic respect, and then it's on. And now the kids that look like me are like, okay, he could do it, I could do it. And the other kids are like, you know what? I wouldn't have listened to you day one. Now I see that.
That's powerful.
So it
What did
was
you get
more for me.
your master's in?
Philosophy.
Oh, because of Joe White.
Yeah.
Yeah. So community college, UCSB undergrad, master's in philosophy. You become a CC educator. That's beautiful, man. And the connection that teachers make to students is so important. There's a journal article in the Journal of College Student Retention. It shows that students who feel a sense of belonging and connection to their instructor are 20% more likely to complete their degrees. And this is important because a lot of times we go to college and everyone's like, oh, you're grown up. I don't need to connect with you. I'm just your teacher. I'm just here to give you material. But the truth is that, you know, as professors, even if you're educating the older, population right after high school population, that is so important to still maintain that connection. And you've done it in such a great way. I wanted to ask you, I know um, that number one, man, you're to me a shapeshifter. Like wherever environment you go, you can sort of not just fit into that environment, but master that environment. And I want to talk about mastery because you have some great ideas on mastery. And so, if you go among philosophers, you become a top philosopher. If you go among, and we're going to talk about your jujitsu background, right? Your jujitsu practice, you win a world title. If you go among surfers, you don't even know how to swim. You're out there hanging with the big surfers. And so, what do you think has allowed you to like enter any environment and find a way, if not master it, trying to master it every time you're in that environment?
I don't think it's trying to master an environment. I'm trying to learn myself.
Mm.
Like I told you, from the moment I got to the United States, I felt like an alien. And just when I think I know something, it turns out that I don't. And most of it just comes from not knowing myself, whether that be academia, whether it be jujitsu, whether it be boxing, whether it be surfing. My best friend, when I was 19, gave me one of the biggest gifts ever. Like I said, I grew up with a single mom, right? And so we go on a surf trip to surf the islands, and I'm tired. We've been surfing for hours. I start paddling back to the boat. The sun's about to set. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "What?" He's like, "What are you doing? Come back here." And I was like, "I'm done." He's like, "Come back here." So I start paddling back. As I'm paddling back, this set wave comes my way, and I catch it. And at that point in time, it's one of the best waves I've ever caught in my life. I was like jazzed. And as I paddled back to him, because now I'm ready for another one, he's like, "Can I tell you something?" I was like, "What's up?" He's like, "You do that with everything." He's like, whether it's boxing, whether it's surfing, he's like, just when it gets tough and you think you can't no more, you stop. He's like, "You're stronger than that, homie." He's like, "Go. Just when you think you're there, you could always go a little bit more."
Mm.
And growing up with him, again, as a mama's boy, where she was just like, "No, it's okay. Like you tried. I carried that with me for everything else, with academia, with jujitsu, I'm just looking to be better. And it went from being better at a craft to just me. And that is what I've had the most difficulty doing most of my life till maybe like the last 5 years is just being me, right? And at school, I felt like I was a gangster, and as academic, I didn't know who I was. So I had this battle between people in my head, like, who am I? Someone speaks to you a certain way, you're coming from the streets right off the bat. Like, you can't behave that way. And so I had this internal struggle for most of my life. Like, I don't know who I am. And through yoga, I finally found an authentic sense of being where I don't care about impressing anybody else. It's just like, I'm good here. And
Wow,
if that's
that's recent.
okay, then I'm chilling. Yeah.
That's recent. That's
Yeah.
in the last 5 years. All right, let's jump into yoga because You know, I know that yoga carries many things in it. It's a physical practice, it allows you to get a good workout in. It's a mental practice, it allows you to like let go of whatever stress you might have. It's a spiritual practice in that you're working on healing that soul of yours that might have gone through a lot in life, right? So like what brought you to yoga, and then what's some of those lessons that you've learned that have allowed you to be present and okay with who you are in that moment in this particular time on planet Earth?
I started yoga because I had an injury from jujitsu, and my girlfriend at the time told me that the steam and humidity would be good for my joints. And so I did it. Again, feeling like an alien, walking in into a community where people don't look like me. But the teacher, Sunny, like from the moment I walked in, like she held me. She was like, "Welcome. Like, this is what you need. You're gonna go in there. Once we go in there, just put your mat next to mine. I'll take care of you." And she did. And the mental isolation where you're working on yourself in the yoga studio was very reminiscent of what happens in the jujitsu competition. And I felt like the movements that we were doing were only strengthening me for jujitsu. So I was hook, line, and sinker in. And as I got deeper into the practice, it goes back to me feeling like an alien. When I was a kid and I'd have these self doubts or everything else, I didn't think anybody else had these. I thought I was alone in my mind and I was crazy. As an academic with a gangster background, there's no blueprint for me. There wasn't that I knew of where I could go to and be like, this is how it goes through. Working in a professional field, not having anybody to draw from. And it's just like, it's all new, all these doubts, everything that's going on in my heart and mind. I'm alone. And in yoga, we're all there talking about the same experience, right? And so for me, it was just a place where I was just free. I can just tell you about these doubts and insecurities that I've had because you're here doing the same thing. So, like, more than physical, it's spiritual and mental. And if I found that my gift is anything through like the hardest times in my life when I hit rock bottom and had to look at myself, my heart is who I am, and my ability to be vulnerable and open myself and be of service is my gift. And that's what I found in yoga is just like somewhere where I can just give you this and let you see me and me see you and make each other better.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. And just to put it out there, imagine if y'all have been listening to my audience, if you've been listening to Manny talk, imagine if that person that you're hearing talk got to be that you got to experience him being your teacher, your and particularly your yoga teacher. And that's been my experience because I've gotten a chance to be in Manny's yoga classes, and not only does he, provide a great workout when you're in there, but he provides you incredible um, thoughts to reflect on, and incredible wisdom that he talks about throughout the class, and so that's powerful. And there's so much research out there that shows that when you ground yourself, when you breathe, and just focus on your breathing, it allows you better health. It allows you better mental health, better physical health. When you ground yourself and you're focused on this moment right now, um, being present is what it's called, that you end up feeling a lot better about your day, about your family, about your life, about your stress, about your work, about your school, about it, your traumas, that it's in this present moment that we can make the world a better place and our own world a better place. And it's in this present moment that we can allow each other to back each other up. And it's in this present moment that we can imagine a better future, not just for ourselves, but for people that are suffering out there in the world. So that yoga practice has allowed me personally to reflect on what it's like and what it means to be okay with this moment right now. So for those of you out there that are like having a hard time in life, maybe you're in the car, you got three jobs to go to, and maybe you're in the car and and a loved one is in the hospital. Maybe you are listening to this podcast, somewhere where it's like you're having a dark moment. Just remember, right, that um, this moment shall pass, and that you'll have other moments where you could really begin to feel that you can make your life a better life, that you can live a better existence. And it's all in the work that you do for yourself. Because only when you do great work for yourself can you do work for others and make them feel empowered and make them feel uplifted. And Manny Raya is someone that, in the community he's in, has been able to uplift other people's spirits, and it's great to see that in action. So, thanks for the work you do, not only as a yoga practitioner but as a yoga teacher out
Thank you.
there helping people out. Let's go back a little bit to your jujitsu, because I know you have an amazing story about like how you came to the world title that you won, and it had to do with your mom or with your grandma,
Yeah. I started the jiu-jitsu competition scene and I did well right off the bat. And turns out my grandma gets sick and she has to have a family meeting. And in this family meeting, she tells us that she's very sick and she's going to pass and she's not going to do chemo. She's just, it is what it is. And she told us how much time she had left. And so from that moment on, I was hanging out with her every day. I just go to her house and watch movies, and it's crazy because we'd have these little conversations about songs or movies, and like I got to learn so much from her, you know. And I was prepping for a competition, and I told her I'm gonna get a gold medal this time for you, and I ended up getting bronze. And I went home and I gave it to her, and she treated it like it was a gold medal. She was like stoked, she was wearing it, she was happy, and then she passed, and
Sorry for your loss.
and the next tournament after that was Worlds. I just when I won that, like not even that like it's a master's division, so it's not like I'm the best in the world, you know? But it was just like I know the work that I put in to get into the shape that I needed to be in, the mental work, the physical work. My grandma passing away and having to deal with that like in my heart, it was just a lot. And to be able to get it and just let all that go and just be like, I could feel her, like I cried. Like it meant a lot to me, you know?
Yeah.
And it just that's my great aunt. She's the one that gave my mom and I the opportunity to come back to the United States. She's the one that showed my mom that, life could be different. Like she changed generational curses, Like she changed generational traumas. Like she took that step just to help someone out. And that has given me the ability to live the life that I live, and I don't take that for granted.
That's beautiful, man. What a beautiful story, man. To honor our ancestors, honor our families for all the sacrifices they've made to get us to where we're at. I mean, we are the dreams of our ancestors, and to live out that dream for them. Like, hey, like, man, he's doing this, man, he's doing that, man, he's doing this. The other thing you do is you help young people out that maybe can't afford, or have never gotten exposure to surfing. And you got the Little Homies Turf to Surf program, nonprofit that you run. You tell us a little bit about that?
So as I mentioned, when I was a kid, we didn't have money to do camps, right? And so I know the road that leads because I lived it. And so I figured like, what if I could provide a camp for kids that is absolutely free? They don't have to pay anything. They get fed every day. And then I also know what it's like to finish something when I got out of camp. There's no real aftercare. So it's just like you go from doing this camp to like, now what? But what if you get to keep everything that you used? So I have this program called Little Homies Turf to Surf. We teach kids boxing, jujitsu, and surfing, and they get to keep everything after as well. And that's funded by the community. Now that we're a 501c3, I'm starting to apply for grants and get things moving forward in that direction. I'm looking to launch an art gallery next year in September with 4 video pieces that kind of show insight into Chicano culture. I would like to have a competition at the elementary, junior high, and high school level for kids to donate to compete for their art pieces, just talking about their lifestyle. And I'd like to 3D get those pieces, turn them into 3D art, and have them be there. So when the art gallery shows, these kids can put in whatever they're applying to that they've been part of a national gallery before, right? So it's just again building kids up, building from the grassroots up, and helping back and giving back to the community.
That's beautiful. Little homies, turf to surf. Look it up.
Yeah.
Support it if you can out there. Those of you that are balling, listening, donate some money to it. Those of you that got little kids in the community that want to participate,
I
look
got
it
you.
up. We got you, right? We got you. Yeah, yeah. Um, so many. Let's talk about wisdom and being a philosopher. I got some friends. They've been on the show. They're on my team. They're part of my wolf pack. They're vice principals. They're educators. We go out into the different communities and uplift young people through leadership training and developing and coaching up their teachers and school administrators. This is Angel Romel and Jesus Flores, and they wrote a book. It's called "This Fool." Lessons for burros and bag chasers, and it's a cool little book for like homies, right? And they have a saying about the knowledge that we produce coming from struggle, and they say, we're professionals, um, but we're still fools, right? And that's because we honor the spirit of where we come from, right? And they say we're philosophers. So I'm sure they would agree that you're a philosopher. And so, as a philosopher, right, what's some wisdom that you've learned out there in the community that you practice every day with you, that you bring with you every day?
This goes back to your description of what happens in a yoga studio. But let me take this in 2 different directions. My struggles in poverty and giving back to the community, that came easy to me, right? It's just you create the program, you do it, and then I had a lot of help doing that, so that came easy to me. Philosophy and in the giving back to the community in this sense, it would bother me when I was in academia because there's people that talk about theories of justice, notions of justice, but they keep it at an academic level. What are you learning this stuff for if you're not going to go out there and place it in the world and try to help create justice, right? I feel that I did that with philosophy. I studied it so much in notions of cultivation of self, building the self, will to power. But it took yoga for me to bring it in and actually live it. The yogis talk about us living in this habitual cycle of discontent. So if you look at your life, I'll use a relationship, for example. You look at a relationship, that's a toxic relationship. You keep going through these cycles and you're like, well, things will get better if I do this. That happens. But then you get back to the cycle. Things will get better if I do this. You do that, it gets back to that cycle, right? Obviously, something's not working. You're stuck in this cycle. It takes for you to look at yourself in the moment, be here, be like, what do I want right now? I don't want this, so I have to make a different decision, leave this relationship or do such and such, right? That's it. Everything I've studied, philosophy in the academic circles have brought me to be this. Is just like to live intentionally. What am I doing in this moment? Because what I do in this moment is going to affect the next one and the one thereafter and the one thereafter. So if I can control myself now, then I have control, not of the world, but of myself. And that's where the notions of control, focusing on your breath and being here. Because if you think of when you have anxiety, you're not embodied. There's so much going on. There's that struggle, right? But if you could calm yourself down, focus on your breath, then you can be. And if you can be, then you can be. Then you have the freedom to choose to take yourself out of these habitual cycles of discontent. And once you have the freedom to choose, then you have ownership of the self. And to me, talking about mastery, that gave me a sense of authenticity where I don't have to be anything else for anybody else. I just have to be in the moment for me and understand who I am, right? I talked about being an alien and feeling lost. I don't give at all about any of that anymore because I'm okay here. And it took me 40 years to be okay here, right? As long as I'm okay at home, I'm all right.
Yeah, being grounded. I mean, listen, man. Like, I grew up in environments where I saw, all kinds of violence, abuse, man, gunshot victims, all of that stuff, right? I mean, in front of me as a little kid, and all the way until my twenties, early 20s, man. And uncle, uh, right next to me, man. My mom's here, my uncle's right here, and guy came and took him out, man, and I was in college at the time, and it happened in front of all my family, little kids running around and stuff. So all that trauma, right? And that's sort of one of the last experiences with violence, but before that, it'd been so many experiences. So by the time I was like a young adult, man, I was, traumatized. I had PTSD, man. I was always like watching my back and like my leg is shaking, and my hands and like and then road raging with people and just like, what you looking at, man? Like, yeah, and I'm angry, right? And it took a lot of healing, a lot of therapy, a lot of talking about my story to people and hearing people say, "Hey, I hear your story," and finding, you know, physical practice that allows me to like ground myself, to be able to just sit here and be comfortable, to just look at you in the eyes, man, and not feel like, there's someone out to get me,
Yeah.
to not like have to like watch my back at all times, to not fidget. And I know a lot of people out there, I see them, man, they're fidgety, they're like paranoid, and just like, I wish I could pass on these lessons of healing. And I know everyone's going through their own journey, but if we could come together and just figure out a way to like help people that are going through these kinds of struggles, and let them know, hey, there is a way, right? And it starts with you. It's easy to say, right? But it's harder to do. It's
Yeah.
been a journey. I know, I did jujitsu for about 8 years, and I know when I started jujitsu, um, I had that same kind of feeling like, oh man, and jujitsu also grounded me because it humbles you, man. Within a second, right, you could be shaking someone's hand, and 2 seconds later, they could be, choking you
Yeah.
out, and it humbles you, man. It's like, oh man, okay, now I could be grounded for 1 second here. Um, but then when I had a shoulder injury, that's where I went to yoga to try to like heal the physical. I was trying to find a space where I could get, like you said, humidity, some heat, calm down the nerves and the muscles until it was time to go back to jujitsu. And then I realized, oh, yoga's not a place where I could just come and fix my stuff and leave. It's a place where I'm on a lifelong journey now because it's helping me on that path to healing. And I think whatever people can find out there to heal themselves, to ground themselves, to feel a sense of appreciation for life, more power to them. Yeah.
And your society. I think that working on you can't help others unless you help yourself, right? They,
Mhm.
they tell you that on an airplane. You make sure to put your mask on so you can help someone else out. But once you put your mask on, you got to help other people out. Like we're social beings by nature. I know that in the United States, we have this notion of lift yourself up by your bootstraps as an individual. Who grows as an individual? Nobody does. As a child, you cannot grow unless someone else takes care of you. And as you mentioned earlier, there's structures that are systemic and endemic that affect people in a profoundly negative way. So yeah, take care of yourself first. And then once you look at yourself, start analyzing society. Like we live in a very tumultuous time. And it's easy to throw terminology out there or say like they feel or we feel, right? Well, where does this come from?
Mhm.
There's theories that can actually speak to the world in which we live in right now and help, help. You know, there's a lady by the name of Iris Marion Young. She has this notion of oppression, which she couples into what she calls five faces. And each face goes to explain how it is that oppression works in a liberal society like ours. You know, the first is exploitation. If you look at a housekeeper or a gardener that are maintaining some place, right? They're doing work. As the people that they take care of get wealthier and wealthier, does their payment go up or does it stay the same? Are they not now helping you live a different type of lifestyle? Like, right? We have to be able to recognize that. And if you're not paying them for their labor that is justly deserved, that's a sense of exploitation, right? We think of the breadwinner as the male that goes to work and the mom as a stay-at-home mom, but we disregard the work that she does at home without giving due credit to that in our society. We're
And
exploiting people in this.
and that's if she's lucky, right, to be able to. Sometimes, women today, they have to work full time and still take
Yeah.
care of the house because we might say that the men are a little bit more egalitarian, they're more likely to help. But the truth is, and the research shows it, that even professional women are having to go out, work full time, and they come home and the husband's like, yeah, yeah, I'm believe in equal rights. But sometimes we're not, doing the dishes. We're not, doing the extra work, the laundry. So balancing that out is very important to support.
Yeah, and like now, because they're in the capitalist system, we'll give them credit. And then people that are in the capitalist system take people that are homeless, take people that are older. We do them away by the wayside. Right now, what do we do with these people? Because they're not part of the enterprise, right? So again,
Yeah.
you have exploitation, you have marginalization, you have cultural imperialism, the dominant culture setting the trends for the people that may not be able to afford that. And how are they going to afford that where the system's set up that they can't catch up?
So how do you okay, we've been talking about like a lot of inward focused practice, right? Yoga, taking care of yourself, leisure stuff, surfing, boxing. I know you give back, but it's still a lot of people out there, right? Like everyday folks that are commuting a couple hours a day each way and they're like, I want to do that, but like I got a 12-hour day and then I get home and have to, take care of the home, take care of the kids. What do you have to say to people out there that are just like struggling every day and do wish that they could do life a little bit different?
The system is the reason you're struggling, right? It's the system in which we live in. That's why you're struggling, right? If we are a community that is set up for us to succeed and the community isn't allowing us to succeed, there's something wrong with that, right? Once you have a revolution, the American Revolution, that means you are now free to create any society that you wish. But if you create that society based off the same premises that the one that was before, you've really changed nothing. You've just named it something different, right? And I think that people are more catching on to this now. I think if you look historically, like people like Fred Hampton that tried to unify colors and let us understand that there's something wrong with the system, that can actually cultivate change. And you look at the rallies that are about to go on Saturday, right? No kings in America. How is it that the GOP is framing these, right? Again, this goes back to theories of oppression. You're powerless. Not only do you take away these people's voice to say what they actually want to say, but you say they're angry and they're agitated, and this is how they respond. And by a peaceful protest, be like, I told you they were angry and agitated, this is how they would respond. You've taken away their voice. The system is corrupt. There's something that is wrong with it inherently. And that is that I have nothing against capitalism. I believe in upward mobility, but there's something that's wrong that just looks at individualistic pursuits and fails to carry for the people,
Yeah.
right? It is a social enterprise.
Yeah, and I think the way we bring about change, right, in this society where, um, right now, man, just being brown, like you or I driving, we could be quiet, not say one word not say one word, driving around, and there's a immigration raid. They're coming for us, especially if we're dressed down.
They've been coming for us.
Yeah, I mean, I when I was a kid,
Yeah.
they would always check on my paperwork. So it's not nothing new, right? They would always come and they're like, where were you? We were little kids, man, they snatch us up at the park. And I know they're doing that to little
Now
kids
they're
now.
doing it in mass
Yeah.
pursuit,
Yeah, yeah. It's
When I told you I started dressing like myself so that these kids would be able to see me at City College, right? I was leaving campus once after doing some office work, and I got pulled over by a cop. I was in a tank top on a skateboard, and he's like, "Hey, excuse me." And I was like, "Were you just at City College?" And I was like, "Actually, yes, I was." He's like, "Do you know why I stopped you?" I'm pretty sure I could guess. He's like, "Oh, you fit the description." I'm pretty sure that's what I guessed. He's like, "Can I see an ID, please?" And I showed him my ID, which was my professor ID. And I was like, "That's what I was doing at City College." He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir." I was like, "Yeah, keep going." Like
yeah.
it's been it. Now they just found a way to institutionalize it and get it in
I
mass
was
appeal mode.
I was a young professor, man, at UC Santa Barbara, and I'm walking down the street in Isla Vista because I at the time we lived in Isla Vista, my family, you know, there's a family housing right off of Isla Vista there. And Isla Vista's that little town right next to the campus. So I'm walking through the little campus town. I just finished teaching, man. It was 5-ish, it was right before dinner. I was headed home. And at the time, I would just walk home because it's, a mile and a half. It's kind of cool to live by the campus. We're in a little apartment. Got my twins, got my wife, headed over there. They're waiting for me at the house. I'm walking, and two sheriffs pulled up next to me, and I'm walking, and when they drive slow while
Yeah.
you're walking, and you're still walking, and they're still driving slow, you're like, man. So, uh, and it was my first year. I was just starting as a professor, and you know, they stopped. They're like, "Can you?" They didn't even ask me. They just like, let me see your ID. Let me see your ID. And then I got attitude, right? So I was like, no, I'm not going to show you my ID. Well, we want to see your. And then I got, and then they sat me down. I guess I refused to show 'em my ID. So they sit me down. And then there was an older guy and like a rookie guy. And the older guy tells the rookie guy something, he whispers something to him. Some code, I don't know what it was, but the rookie guy got really shaken up when he told him that. And I imagine that he kind of warned him like, "Hey, this guy must be like some convict or something,"
Yeah.
like
Yeah, he
because
might
he
have a
got all
weapon or
that
something.
paranoid.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he put his hand right here, man. He got ready to pull out his weapon, and right when I saw the young guy get nervous, I was like, I better change the situation if I can.
Yeah.
So that's when I went from having attitude at these guys to be like, excuse me, officer, I just want to let you know I'm a professor here at the
Yeah.
university. I have my professor ID in my pocket. I just got it the other day. I could show it to you. It's all good. I'm sorry. I apologize. And the guy was still like really like
Yeah.
apprehensive towards me. And I was like, man, I don't want to escalate this. And finally they let me show them my IDs, and then they let me go. But then I started to think, man, what
What if you didn't
if
have that?
it was another kid
Yeah.
my age or younger? I was in my 20s. What if it's another kid my age or younger and they didn't have those IDs? They're just getting pulled over for the color of their skin. And we're seeing that in our society today, not just by police, but now by immigration. Full on US citizens born here getting snatched up. And so, yes, you're right. We have to change the society we live in. And the way that we change it is by building communities that are going to say, hey, enough is enough.
There's also individual people in these systems that are good. I'm not saying like everybody that does this is bad. Like you, like when I was teaching, I got tackled, I got beat down, and I was just like, I'm not the guy you're looking for. I got an Uber, and like my Uber picked me up in front of the cops, and like they found out I wasn't the guy, and like boom, I was gone. Recently, after teaching yoga in Ventura, I went to the 7-Eleven right there. And the lady working the 7-Eleven just happened to have to go clean by the area that I was. And I went to a different area and she had to go clean that area over there as well, right? So when I went to pay, I left. It kind of broke my heart just because I walked out of like such a peaceful environment where like we're working on each other to like having someone look at you the way that, people have looked at you like for a very long time, even though you've changed. And I was driving from Ventura to Santa Barbara, and I was speeding. I know I was. I was pissed. I was bummed. Then the sheriff lights behind me. I pull over in CARP. He gets behind me, he comes over, and he's like, "Hey, can I see your ID?" "Oh, for sure. Here you go." He's like, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" I was like, "I was speeding." He's like, "Yeah, you were." He's like, "You were doing 85." And he saw like a bunch of boxing gloves and stuff in the front. He's like, "What's that?" I was like, "I was actually working with some kids before I went to go teach yoga." And I was. And he's just like, "Oh." He's like, "Why are you driving so fast?" I was like, "To be honest," and I told him what had just happened at that store. And I was like, "I just want to get home, you know?" And he went back to his car and then he came back to me. He's like, "Hey, it's only warning." He's like, "Take care of yourself. Don't drive crazy."
Yeah,
And
man.
so, right, even within systems, there's people with good hearts. It's just like,
Oh, it's the good people
yeah,
in the
people
systems that are
coming
gonna
together and build
change the
communities that are
system.
good.
You're right. That's a beautiful story, man, because it shows you the complexity of humanity. Not all of us are all good, and then all of us all bad. Like we could all be good or bad, even though systems are telling us to be good or bad. You know what I mean? Like,
Even within yourself, we're
yeah,
dynamic people. I can be angry sometimes. I can be happy sometimes. I'm a person.
yeah. Oh man, this is powerful. Just all around, man. There's a study published in the Journal of Urban Affairs that found that communities with higher engagement experience lower crime, and I know that's what you're doing when you're working with young people. You're constantly teaching them to be civically engaged, to be like ask questions, be critical thinkers. Explore the world and not let people feed them what they need to know, but rather that they take different ideas, different information, and come up with their own ideas. How do you plan to grow your organization and the work y'all are doing with the young people?
So again, I think this art gallery is going to serve as a mission statement.
Mm.
Uh, I want it to bring to people together, and I want it to enhance a narrative, enhance a conversation where we can talk about what is going on in our societies, right? That's why I want the kids involved because I want this to be a grassroots thing. I want this to be an exploration of who we are as a culture, how we see ourselves, and just kind of put that out there into the world. Um,
Mm.
from that, like my ultimate goal is to create an online educational platform. Um, if you look at critical race theory, that's like a really hard word to use right now, especially if you're trying to do it in academic circles in elementaries, junior highs, or high schools, right? Especially now that curriculum is trying to be changed and all that. So rather than go through bureaucracy, I'd like to create an online educational platform myself. I didn't see myself in education when people talked about historical facts or peoples. I never saw me in there. Right. So I want these kids to be able to see themselves. We were talking about Bobby Martinez, number three best surfer in the world at one time. We're talking about Victor Ortiz, faced Floyd Mayweather at the highest echelon of boxing, right? So you have one of the greatest surfers in the world, one of the best boxers in the world. You have people like us that are academics that are in this field. So these kids could look, don't have to look, be like, oh, where's the blueprint? It's right there. There are people that come from your neighborhood, people that come from your background that have reached these levels of success. And not only is it about reaching a level of success, it's about your people. It's about giving back. It's about looking at yourself and creating something better for yourself, for them as a whole. So you don't have to feel alone. You don't have to feel alien. You don't have to feel ostracized. You have the ability to lift yourself up with using your community around you.
Man, that's beautiful. And by definition, right, an alien, right, which you're using a lot that term, like your journey, right? Like you came here and you were like, man, I feel like an alien, and like being okay with being seen by others as someone different. To me now, that's a gift. When I walk in a room and people, look at me like you don't belong, and it happens a lot, right? Because I'm, in administrative circles at the university, or I'm in DC, over the years advising administrations, or when I show up to those spaces and they're like looking at me like, What?" Even if I'm wearing a suit, they're still like, "Yeah, you don't belong here." I take that as a compliment because if you're feeling like I don't belong here, that means that I've leveled up so high that there's no one else like me here. and that I'm the first to come through this space, but I won't be the last because
Yeah.
I'm also building the bridges for others to come into those spaces. To feel right, or for others to see us as we don't belong is often a compliment to us because we've approached this level that no one else has approached. And now we're building those gateways for others to enter into those
And
spaces.
to me, that's where I get my confidence because I know what I can do. I know the work that I put in. I know what fear and being scared and all that made me study to the academic level where I'm at now. And where I'm at now, I feel confident in any given circle, right? So there's a lot you can take away from me based off the way I look, but I can talk that ish all day. I am an academic through and through. You want to talk about subjugation, you want to talk about oppression, you want to talk about feminist theory, you want to talk about political theory, you want to talk about moral self cultivation. I got you. Like there's something you can't take away from me, and that's the work that I put in, and that's the degrees that I've earned, and that's the academic that I am.
That's beautiful, man. And I know that pretty soon, besides everything else you're doing, right? On top of it all, man, directing a nonprofit, being a coveted yoga teacher, man, boxing, jujitsu, helping the community. You're also pretty soon here going to be Dr. Manny Raya from Pepperdine University,
I
right?
need to hurry up and be documented from Pepperdine University. I have been slacking on that dissertation, and again, that's just I am doing a lot of things, but I've come to the point where I've started to hunker down and get it done. But yeah, I am on chapter 3 of my dissertation, and so hopefully soon, Dr. Manny Raya.
Dr. Manny Raya, that's a beautiful ring to it, man. Well, as we begin to close off, brother, I did want to ask you a question, man. And we're talking about fixing the soul today, right? And you've brought a lot of good nuggets of knowledge for that. Um, and uh and I want to create like a metaphor, and the metaphor is, I like fixing things, like actually physical things. Like I like fixing cars, ever since I was a little kid, man. I've broken TVs, fix them up. Whatever broken things I could find, I try to fix them. And probably that was coping, right? Because everything was broken. My soul was broken, my environment was, my family was broken, everything was broken. So for me to see myself fix a physical object, that was a metaphor for fixing my life. But I still wasn't fixed.
Yeah.
I was just fixing things, not people. And now I feel like I've been able to have given the gift uh, to help fix people, including myself. And so, if you could fix anything in your life right now, what would you fix?
I just don't want my mom to have any struggles, man. That's it. I'm a mama's boy through and through. From she's been it. She always will be. She's the best human I've ever met. If I can make sure that she's taken care of, then I'm good. And to me, I used to think like I want to buy her a house. And I heard her talking to her friend one day, like once I was already in academia and teaching, and she's like, you know what I like about my son? She's like, no matter what, the highs and the lows, the levels of success, he's always like looked out for me and made sure I'm okay and like. And so I just got to keep being me, and she'll be all right. But it's just like she's an angel. She's the best human I've ever met. So as long as she's taken care of, I'm good.
So, building on that legacy of both of you taking care of each other and
Yeah.
growing that, continue to grow that. That's beautiful, man. Creating those systems of support for yourself and moms. That's beautiful. Well, Manny, thank you for sharing your story, man. Um, this story proves that redemption is possible, that education saves lives, and that wisdom isn't found in perfection, but in perseverance. Your journey reminds us that it's not about where you start, it's about who you choose to become. This has been Sueños to Success. Until next time, keep believing in your community, keep believing in yourself, and keep using your story to lift others higher. Thank you, brother.
Let's go. Thank you.
Hey, that was beautiful.